welcome back. It's the economic update, and I've got Darrell Hunter as my guest today. And Darrell, it's nice having you on the program.
Thanks, Brian.
And Darrell's a stock market analysis, and I know a lot of us out there right now are just going like, well, what do I do? Stocks are diving. It doesn't seem like there's an upturn to it, but maybe there's a light at the end of the tunnel here, Darrell. Darrell, is it a good time to invest in the stock market? A lot of times people are trying to invest at a time when they feel like it's hit its lowest point. Have we hit its lowest point, and is it a good time to invest?
Yes, Brian. The short answer, again, to this question, which is very complicated. I get asked this question a lot, and it's not a simple answer that, yeah, we've actually hit the bottom. Now, the market itself moves in cycles, and as we have seen lately, the cycle has been very low. If you, of course, were around a few years ago, and we were in the top part of the cycle, you know, you've seen your portfolio go down to the dumps. But right now, things have settled down. I don't think that we're going to be moving much lower than where it has been right now. Of course, that's not a guarantee, but right now I see things have been moving up. And
okay.
What I do is I look at charts. I do analysis on the stock market to see what is happening. And the direction right now, it has been flat for some time. I think we're on our way back up. Right?
Backing up. Now it's interesting. I just had my stock broker call me up, and he said, you know what, this is the best time now to start allocating some money into your retirement plan and maybe into some stocks, into some mutual funds. Mm-hmm. And that comes as a surprise. Obviously, he's thinking the same thing then, I guess. Is that correct?
Yes. If you, the problem with where most people have been is that they've had these portfolios for quite some time, and most of them have been reduced by at least half. In some cases, I've heard of
three-quarters
or even worse. And if you're at some point where you're going to be retiring soon, that's really you don't have a long term on your horizon to look at to build that stock portfolio back up. So
okay.
it is a major concern for people.
Well, one thing I'm concerned about too is that a lot of times some people already did cut the bait and move on, mm-hmm. and maybe put the money elsewhere. Maybe in bonds, treasury bonds, or something like that, treasury bills. But you would not recommend anybody, this is not the time to go ahead and liquidate and move your money elsewhere?
Oh, definitely not right now. At this point, if you've stuck it out to this point, it's probably a good idea to hold on. Now, there's a little caveat to that in that, yes, some of the things that you may have in your portfolio, you really have to take a look at and decide whether or not those things should still be in there, because there are a lot of individual stocks which more than likely over the next few years are not going to do anything and will still be at that lower level.
Well, let me ask you, one of the things that was really rising when you said on the peak of the stock market was tech stocks. Mm-hmm. Would you recommend tech stocks at this time?
Tech stocks in general, yes, but again, you're going to have to get educated. I mean, one of the number one things I think that has happened over the last few years is you used to be able to just put your money into the stock market and not worry about it, and it was going to have some kind of return. Right now, you have to get educated. You have to take a look at those individual stocks that you're investing in. You have to take some time to study that before you make the decision to jump in to those individual stocks. The tech market is probably not any different than any of the other marketplaces themselves. It's going to be there. It's going to be a strong market. Years to come, we're going to look back and say, well, yeah, this was a great time to invest at this point. Okay. But yes, you really have to get educated.
Okay. Now, part of the education process, I think, is a lot of people like to rely on the internet, mm-hmm. for a lot of their information. And someone has a stock analysis, stock market analysis, who does that analysis, yes. like yourself, uh-huh. trying to spit it out there. Do you encourage people to go to the internet, get a lot of information combined with what you have to say? How do you deal with the internet?
Okay. Well, I'll tell you, Brian, that's how I did it, and that's how I learned. I went from my original business in the mortgage business, from which that's where I know you, to trying to figure out what's going on with the stock market, because I saw the decline in the stock market, obviously, in the portfolio, and now it moving forward. And that's how I got my information, is the internet. The internet is really the great equalizer. There's all types of information that you can get on the internet. And one of the things that really has helped the market itself is a thing called direct access. So most brokers, you can go to your broker. There's online brokers. You have direct access. You now can go into find a particular stock that you want to look at. You can do the research on that stock and also buy that stock in a matter of
Determine if you want to do
months.
that. Thank you, Darrell Hunter, for being our guest. He's a stock market analyst. Darrell, a longtime friend, knows what he's talking about. If you have any questions for Darrell and any of our guests, please go to our website, reweeklytv.com. We'd appreciate it. I think you will too. And right now it's our viewer mail segment. It's our viewer mail segment. I'm here along with Tracy Pierce, Dan Lawson. I'm Brian Stuckey once again. And Tracy, first of all, before we start, I want to tell you what a pleasure it is having you on the program.
Thank you.
You started with us doing a home and garden, but you got your real estate license. And I don't know if you knew it, but it was a requirement that you have your real estate license for a few years before we ask you to come on the program.
Well, thanks. I'm glad to be here.
So we had to start you out with light and fluffy stuff. But,
this is one hurdle after another in this business.
But it's a pleasure having you. And we want to encourage you to go to our website, reweeklytv.com, for any questions you might have. And that's what we're going to do right now, is answer a couple questions. And Tracy, why don't we start with you? What do you got?
Chris from San Jose would like to know, why can't I lock my interest rate at the time of loan application? Actually, Chris, you can lock your interest rate at the time of loan application, but it's going to cost you, usually it costs about 1/8 of a point, wouldn't you say, per extra 15 days past a standard 30-day lock to lock your interest rate. So usually loan consultants will advise against it if they think rates are going to stay stable or maybe even come down, because it's not worth paying the extra 1/8 of a point to extend a lock.
It's like paying for insurance.
Yeah.
And if rates are stable, which they have been, they've taken a recent increase or a recent blip up, but that's just the course of a loan. Typically, when I start a loan, I tell people, be a little patient. If you want to lock, it'll cost you this extra amount to get you a 45 or 60-day lock. But typically what we see is 1 or 2 increases and decreases, just this little oscillation. We see that happen during the course of a transaction.
And I think that you guys run into the same situation when you're talking to a client and you're advising, they're leaning on you to give them information. And sometimes we play the market, and sometimes we get burned, and sometimes we don't. And the only reason why I say that is that we do have an opportunity to lock people up the front. And as you mentioned, Tracy, is that it's going to cost you a little bit more to have these days, and at the time that we're taping this, there's a big glutton amount of loans out there. There's some lenders that are going to 60-day locks, 45-day locks, but the idea that you were talking about is that you can float that loan and then get the best pricing. But that's ultimately, I know from me, I need to give that decision over to my clients. I'll give them the information and let them decide, but sometimes I'm guilty of playing the game too.
Yeah, it's important to have a loan consultant that you trust, because I know some people check the internet. The information's not always reliable. So if they're looking on the internet, to some extent they can trust that, but it's always important to consult somebody who looks at interest rates every day.
Very good.
Exactly.
Dan?
Well, I'd like to take a little move away from the interest rates and so on. I was talking to someone recently, and this is to all of you out there and to us and our families and so on. I guess what I want to say is, with all the negative things that are happening these days, people are randomly being shot by a sniper, and there's so much negativity. I want to say to everybody out there, things will be fine. People are good. There's a lot of good people out there. Don't be nervous or afraid. Accidents happen, circumstances occur. And there's a lot of bad things that people are doing, but I think the bad people are very few. There's more of them because there's more people. 100 years ago, there was less population, so there wasn't as many bad people doing as many nutty things that they're doing now. But think about how many good things you've done for someone, or how many good things have been done to you. And I'd like to invite you, if you have a good story to share with us, from time to time, we'd like to take this viewer mail segment that's really yours to share some good things that have happened. And that's my sharing with all of you today.
No, I appreciate that. It's very appropriate, Danny. I mean, we are kind of under a cloud right now. There's a lot of things out there with the economy, and we've talked to Darrell Hunter and some of the other people on the program before, where there's a cloud there. People are already down about that than the situation going on in Washington and everything else. There's a lot of good things out there to get excited about.
More
So-
good than bad.
So there's a lot of hope. So we hope you take that to heart. Thank you, Dan, very, very much for having it. Thank you, Tracy, for being on the program today and forevermore. But once again, go to our website, reweeklytv.com, for any information. If you want to ask any questions, that'd be great. For Tracy Pierce, Dan Lawson, I'm Brian Stuckey. Good night. Thanks for being with us.